Hey everyone, it's Attorney Andre. I keep saying this that if you're broke, it's a personal choice to be broke. I want to discuss the main reason why you are broke, and that's what you actually spend your money on. Because the main reason why people are broke is because they spend their money on useless garbage. And if you think I'm going to sit here and say if you want to be rich, you should not spend your money on Starbucks coffee, for example, you're totally wrong. I don't care about that. Your life isn't going to be made or broken by whether you pay $4 for Starbucks coffee. By the way, I think that's insane. But regardless, it's not going to make a difference. Here is what will. I think the old adage of it's not how much you make, it's how much you save really makes sense. But I would take it one step further. It's not merely how much you save, but how you deploy that capital, because there are people that actually save and they're broke. So if it's not how much you make and how much you save, what's that X factor? And I really think that the issue is how you deploy your capital. The wealthy aren't wealthy because they make a lot of money. I'm sure you've heard of a lot of lottery winners, a lot of athletes, a lot of superstars that are super wealthy. They have millions and tens of millions of dollars in the bank, and they still wind up broke. What's the reason for that? Why does that happen? Because they're not deploying their capital properly. They're buying cars, they're buying really expensive houses that they shouldn't be buying, they're buying planes, and they're buying all kinds of stuff, yachts, and these are all depreciating assets. And the reason why these assets are actually there is to make money. But a lot of people that actually make a lot of money and spend money on these assets, they wind up losing money because they're not using it for the right purpose. I'm going to go through what that real purpose is, what the real purposes of having a private jet are, what the real purpose of having a yacht is, and how do you deploy that capital in order to make money. It doesn't really matter if you're super rich or not. I mean, if you can't afford a private jet or a private yacht, it doesn't really matter because the baseline, what you're trying to use the money for, how you deploy the money is still the same, regardless of what your socioeconomic status is. So the first thing is you spend your money to impress people. This is one of the main reasons why you're broke. You spend your money to impress people. I saw a guy, I was in DC a couple of weeks ago. I saw a guy walking out of like the crummiest, shittiest apartment ever with all dripped out and like Louis Vuitton stuff with the big LV on the chest and like the best sneakers and like a new Apple Watch or whatever it is. And none of that money that's used to impress people is really helping because you're impressing other people. The clothes aren't worth that much. You can't resell them. It doesn't matter how many LVs are on that shirt. If you go on eBay and you type in Louis Vuitton, you're going to see so many clothes that are selling for like well under retail market. And by the way, if you want to buy cheap clothes, cheap designer clothes, you can go anywhere because people are trying to get rid of them. It's a terrible way to spend money. It does make sense if you're spending money on amazing material, like amazing wool, so you feel well, you look well, you go and dress up in a nice suit if you're a guy, and you go to court or you go on a business meeting and you look really put together and you look really well. But having flashy things and having well-made things that make you look good are totally different. Just because they're flashy, just because they're expensive, doesn't mean they're high quality, doesn't mean people will value you. Frankly, I've never went to a business meeting, and I go to business meetings on a daily basis. I've never gone to a business meeting where the thing that sold the other side, the reason why we made a deal was because I had an LV tie or a Hermes tie. Usually it's what I say, how I say it, and whether I'm put together. Do I even have a tie? Am I dressed the part? Am I going into a meeting with foreign investors looking like I just came from a bar? I mean, there are times and places for you to dress the way you want to dress, but if you're put together, you don't have to have expensive clothes. You can have really good quality clothes that don't scream labels, that are not there to impress other people, that are there to make you feel better. So that's tip number one. Don't spend money to impress other people. Spend money only to better yourself. Now, the second reason people are poor is they don't see value in owning things. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but owning things is really what creates value. Whether it's a piece of property, whether it's a car, whether it's the clothes on your back, whether it's your own phone. I mean, look at what we have here. You have a situation like people, they use Affirm or any of these other platforms where they're actually taking on loans to pay for clothes, to pay for electronics. You don't own those electronics. You don't own those clothes. Somebody else owns those clothes. Your house is based on a mortgage. You don't own that house. I mean, sure, you can derive equity from that house, but you don't truly own that house. Your car isn't paid for. It's a depreciating asset. You don't own that car. Maybe you bought it at the top of the market. Who the hell knows? But the reality is you don't own anything. I mean, even your phone. I know so many people that are broke and they have their phone on some kind of payment plan. They don't own their own phone. They're, God forbid your phone breaks. Now you owe the phone company money and you got to get a new phone. You're paying double. And even if it's zero interest, it's not really zero interest because they know you're going to return the phone and the phone company is going to get value from your phone. So everyone is getting value from you. Everyone is taking a chunk out of you, but you're not making money for yourself. You don't own your phone. Whereas if you own your phone, then you can resell it. At least you can recoup some money, even though it's depreciating. But you don't own. A lot of people, because they're buying their clothes through like a firm or something like that, they don't even own the clothes off their back. I think that's terrible. I think that there is a big value in owning an asset. Now, that doesn't mean you can't leverage debt because a lot of people are going to say, Andre, you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I've got comments like this before on like the 60-40 video that I made. Check it out. It's over here. But I got so many comments saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. There's no such thing as a 5% savings account. First of all, that's wrong. There is multiple of them. And second of all, I'm not saying don't use debt to leverage your business. You can absolutely use debt to leverage your business. In fact, debt is some of the best wealth creating methods there is if you know how to use it properly. But if you're using debt, consumer debt on credit cards where you're paying a 25% interest rate, if you're using debt to pay for your phone and you're not writing that off as a business expense because you just want to impress someone that you've got the new iPhone, if you're using debt to pay for the clothes on your back, if you're using debt to fund essentially your life, that's not great because you're paying way too much, you're getting way too little, you're throwing money away, you're not saving, you're not investing, you're not doing what you should be doing. And then the other thing, tip number 3, is when you buy something, regardless of whether you buy it for yourself or for your business, you really should be asking 5 questions. The 5th one is probably the most interesting. 1, do I really need this? If you don't need it, don't buy it. If you can get something cheaper that'll fulfill that same task, buy that instead. 2, how long am I going to use it? Because if you buy something and you're just going to get rid of it next year, like a phone, new phone comes out, hell, I'm going to get that new shiny phone because it's somehow marginally better or whatever. I don't know. But if you're not going to use it for a long time, you don't need it. It's a disposable asset, essentially. How frequently are you going to use it? So if I'm, let's say, a content creator or I'm a blogger and I'm using my camera that's really expensive every single day, it's for my business, I can't go without it, then that's a good purchase. If it's something you use once and throw away, it's not a good purchase. In fact, I would call that a luxury. You can buy something the next day and throw it away. Not a good purchase. Number 4, will it save me time so I can use that money in another area of my life? And this is really where private jets come into play. And I'm going to break it down to show you that you can even do this if you're not super wealthy. If you have a private jet, you hear many people say it's a time machine. Let me explain that concept to you. Because if you're not driving to the airport, waiting in line, going through all the hassles, and spending hours and hours and can just pick up, make a phone call, and fly to where you need to go, then you're saving hours. What is the value of your hour? Let's say I'm an attorney, and my value is I bill $450 an hour. If I can save 2 hours and give it to somebody else, then I've made $800, even if I've spent, I don't know, $100. So you don't have to use this with a private jet concept. You can use this with like someone cleaning your house. So I have somebody that comes and cleans my house on a weekly basis. I can clean my house myself. My wife can clean my house. It's not that hard to clean a house. You wipe things, you clean things. But the time that I spend cleaning the house, I'd rather be working. So let's say I spend $150 for someone to spend, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 hours cleaning my house. And I'm billing at $400 an hour. Is my time better spent cleaning my house? Or is it better spent working where I can actually make money? Because I can pay for that house cleaning in 30 minutes. Whereas if I were to do it myself, then I would spend so much money and not do my job. So essentially, will it save you time? And it's the same with any consumer gadget. Let's say you have a content creation business and you have a gadget that costs, I don't know, a couple $1,000s, whatever it is, whether it's a drone or whatever it is. And that something will save you time, because if you didn't have that gadget, you would spend hours setting up and using different other different equipment or whatever have you. That time saving measure is super important, because that time saving measure is really money in your pocket. You should be spending money on stuff that multiplies the amount of money you make. And that gets me back to the coffee at Starbucks. Because you have people that say that you shouldn't buy coffee at Starbucks, you should make your own coffee. But if it takes you, let's say, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, or 15 minutes to make your own coffee, but it takes you, I don't know, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to go to Starbucks, how much money have you saved in doing what you really need to do, instead of sitting there, putting in a pod, or sitting there and grinding your own coffee, or using some kind of instant coffee that you're not happy with, or whatever have you? Then the next part is that even if it doesn't save you time, does it make you more productive? Are you stopping for that coffee on your way to work? And does that save you more time at home? So if let's say you don't want to spend more, you want to spend more time at home, you don't want to spend it in the kitchen, you want to go to your job or go to your office or whatever it is and stop by for some coffee, go through a drive-through, it'll take you 10 minutes or something like that. That will save you more time. And if you extrapolate the time value of money, you'll find that it's not that big of a difference. And if you're doing everything right in your other aspects of life, you can afford a $4 coffee. If that's kind of your thing. If that's your thing, then you shouldn't give it up, because you think you're going to save $4 here, spend an extra $100 a month on a phone you don't need, for example, and think, well, now I'm going to be rich, now I'm going to be wealthy because I don't buy $4 coffee. That's nonsense. So that's tip number 4. Make sure you use your money to save you time in other areas so you can make money in this area, the one that you primarily use to make money. Here's another issue, and this probably is the most nebulous concept. If you spend money to leverage an opportunity that cannot be leveraged in a cheaper way, you should spend that money. So for example, if you join a yacht club and that yacht club costs $50,000 a year, sure, you can spend that money in other aspects of your life. But if that yacht club gives you access to high net worth individuals, to business opportunities, and to other things, you should absolutely do that. You should absolutely go to a networking event that costs multiple thousands of dollars, for example, or multiple hundreds of dollars, if you can leverage that resource in order to make connections. And if you take a look at my video about, is college a scam? I think that college is a scam if you don't use it to leverage your connections. If you're spending, I don't know, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 every single year to go to college, then at least use that money to make the right connections with the right people, joining the right clubs and the right organizations. Because other than that, what's the point of it? Because you can learn everything online. But that's neither here nor there. The real purpose of this video is to show you that you should be able to spend your money and have money to spend to leverage opportunities that you can't find in a cheaper way. So for example, that yacht club example, I don't know if I'll be able to find an opportunity where I can meet these same people in a cheaper way. I mean, I don't work in the same environment that they work in, most likely. I don't travel in the same circles. And the reason why I don't travel in the same circles is because I'm not part of the same social clubs. But if I am part of those same social clubs, then I can utilize that. I can make contacts with those people. I can use general people skills to leverage that contact. And then that contact can lead me to something else. I'll give you an example. This actually happened to me. If anyone knows, my wife convinced me to learn competition dancing. So I dance in competitions with my wife and my dancing coach. And dancing is super expensive. I don't know if anyone has ever tried it, but it's really expensive. We're talking about potentially thousands of dollars on a monthly basis, between like $6,000 or $7,000 in some instances. I know people that spend that much. I went to those classes and I got in touch with people who likewise go to those classes and likewise go to these social events, and that turned into a business opportunity, and I made $200,000 on that business opportunity. By spending a couple of $1,000s a month, I was able to leverage that to be put in the right place at the right time. So never turn down these opportunities and use your money to leverage it so you can get into other opportunities and get in front of people that you ordinarily wouldn't meet. But only do that if there's no cheaper option. If there's a cheaper option, then you should certainly take the cheaper option. But if you leverage your money, that is a prime example of how you can get rich and a prime example of what's keeping you broke, because you're spending your money not on important things. You're spending your money on clothes. You're not spending your money on joining these social clubs. You're not spending your money on maximizing the time value of money. So that's one of the reasons why you're broke and why I say being broke is a choice. Because all of these things are choices. You can choose to spend a lot of money on things you don't need, or you can invest that money where it's needed. I'll give you another example of what happened to my parents. My parents came to this country with nothing. We weren't born rich. And when my dad came to this country, he did school to become an engineer. He already was an engineer in Belarus, and he came to this country and he took classes. And he spent money on those classes, and he spent money on different social clubs in those classes. And he made good friends with the professor in one of those classes. And that led to a job. And that job led to him essentially being fireproof. And that fireproof job, working as an engineer, led my parents to opening up a business. And they used that business and those contacts in order to make money, and so and so and so and so. But that's kind of what I'm getting to. If it wasn't for that initial investment, where my parents didn't have anything, instead of spending money on clothes or cars or like the new gadget of the day at that time, spending your money on an education to better yourself and to get put in a place where you can make those contacts, that's what helped. That's what really pushed everyone forward and pushed out of a situation from being broke and having nothing to having something. I'm not talking about rolling in dough, but I'm talking about not being broke. So that's why I think being broke is a choice and being broke is a mindset. Do I want to show off to other people, or do I want to better myself? Let me know what you think. Do you agree with my analysis? I can't wait to hear from you. Talk to you soon. Like, comment, subscribe. See you later.